everybody doing an episode about Madden 25 by the Disconnected Podcast on Mode YouTube Series. That's right, we are back, and we're brought to my attention episode number 19 that we use to produce for you the statistics for this last game. What's up with that? Come on, man. I apologize. We're going to go through it really quickly. Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan, the two quarterbacks in the game, have almost identical quarterback ratings. Like, I mean, literally, like 160.6 to 160.4. Ryan had the advantage in yardage, but the Aaron Rodgers got juked off on yardage by Jason Campbell, who was into the game. Periodically, when Aaron Rodgers was hurt, 3 points about 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Aaron Rodgers was sacked twice, and Rodgers was not sacked. But Jason Campbell was sacked in his time that completely switched to Aaron Rodgers on the game. There's a bit of an advantage, 77% to 72% for Matt Ryan. But essentially, it's up for the two highly quoted QBs. The best rusher on the team was arguably Arthur Morris of the Cleveland Browns, 6 carries for 65 yards. And that 65-yard total was heavily aided by his 46-year-old camper. And he would not rush my touchdown. Mark Brown was already last year 15 carries, that is, for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. A very aggressive average for 5.3 yards per carry. Those meanwhile, 4 carries for 40 yards, penetrated. Short yardage, 3 carries for 14 yards. Receiving dominated for an hour and a half of Keith in the front. Jackson, Keith had 5 catches for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Browns actually had 50 yards on 3 catches. Going down the list for us, Roddy Ball chipped in 4 catches for 27 yards. Loaded 1 for 25 and a drop. Mario Manning had 1 for 16. Jeff Cumberland 1 for 7. And Derek Rose 1 for 6. On the flip side, the Cleveland Browns main receiver was Arthur Morris, rushing leader and receiving leader. He had 3 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. The Red Hawks his long run and aided him heavily. He also had a 54-yard touchdown in the game after straight pass. 54-yard touchdown was also the wrong statistic to the 1 catch to go 54-yard get a touchdown. The team that extended on those 2 plays before Cleveland scoring. Laney Walker the total, but also chipping 2 catches for 36 yards for the Browns. Defense, the game ended the ridiculous slot and under possession. Cleveland dominated the way tackles. Extraordinary plays they had. Big plays they had to defend. 8 tackles for TJ Ward, the Browns former safety, led the way. On our half, the Saints held Bostic McCoy with 3 tackles, followed by Nick as Jarvis for each had 2. Nick also 15 on the slot. This is doing defensive work and interception lines. The lone reception interception for both teams came from DJ Moore of the Browns and Justin Herbert, his second pick of the year for our Buffalo Bills. The kicking game, Greg Zerline with 1 for 1 punting. And Butler of the Cleveland Browns had 1 punt for 44 yards. Nothing tremendously special happened during the game. Kickoff return, but Jacoby Ford swept the 1 punt return of the game, 20 for 39 yards, making the Browns netted and had 11 yards on that punt. So I apologize for not going over the stats here in episode number 9, so most of this time distracted or something. But anyways, they're done now. Thank you for having me on board. Now on to our regular program, episode number 20. Now episode number 20. They say we're proud of episode number 20. Please, this is wonderful. Here we go. So we're going to progress plans today. Today's offensive line is the last episode, number episode that is for practice and our paid video. We did on the receivers and our tight ends. So today, let's see how much is essential because if Michael Lewis already go down, we might need someone to step in and do probably not a tolerable job. How realistic that is, given Michael Lewis' sheer talent. But we would need someone who could come in and do at least a decent job. So Michael, Bruce Campbell there, a big upgrade with his run blocking ability and his awareness. They're nice to use their left tackle. Michael Lewis is hard to even find from his speed, but the points line for him, a lot of his areas are so developed, it's hard to find things. But run blocking is certainly one that we can upgrade. So there's one upgrade for him, and we might need it all for him. His stamina, his impact blocking, his consistency is already excellent. So let's bring his point and build up a bit more. We can see if we get that run blocking skill up a bit more. That he is more of a finesse pass blocker than a straight up run blocker. Only not him, the former first round pick. Now that is up next. He needs to do great. He has just a few points to spend. 20,000 points, that's a big part in thanks to our successful practices so far. I believe we did 9 practice sessions, I want to say. I think that makes sense. Yes, I think that's 9 practice sessions, and we've been successful at 8 of those 9. So his pass blocking has been upgraded quite a bit. His run blocking is up, and I think we should see well as the rest of this point. On awareness. I don't know about you guys, but these are stickers right now. Just nothing is influencing me to stay honest. That's how I feel. This is not much of a purpose. But who watches? Anyways, we're on to the awareness for down the podcast. Just being at the points. Let's get him up to 16. That would be a huge experience point upgrade for the next area, which is very nice. Both Reds are starting lineman and is our second best offensive lineman. So again, he played a key role. So if he were to go down, I think it would be Preston College and pretty quickly. We kind of feel to make a run block upgrade for Ben Gregg. Obviously, that's what I would like to play this. That's my first initial thought was to play. It would be nice to get just a little bit more stamina, maybe a little bit more awareness. Awareness is pretty expensive, though. Let's see. I don't see anywhere else. I mean, his injuries, first of all, are going to be wild and expensive. It's hard to think his injury rate. But his injury and strength right now is so good. His stamina, upgraded once, so I don't think we should keep it. One upgrade of run blocking and expensive upgrade and save the rest of the points. So you could spend like 400 kilos on opportunity when you're working with players who are already over completely upgraded over their own skills. It's going to be guys in the back end, center, or people call from who I think is the starting center for the Chicago Bears in my class, if I'm not mistaken. Let's speak some of these points on pass blocking, get him up to 80, and then bring up his run blocking is already quite good. His awareness is already quite good. Impact blocking could be a little bit better. And certainly that stamina is always an issue for older players. So let's break that up a bit. Obviously, it's unlikely that Carson will get everything this year, barring an injury. But I mean, in the cases with Danny Watkins or Bruce Campbell, our backup offensive linemen, if Preston McGovern can make the big moves for us, he's a pretty run-oriented team. He could be able to keep moving the ball regardless of who's blocking for us. So it's essential to make sure that these guys are getting what they need. For Eric Wood, I think a pretty simple upgrade of one block, and one run block, one pass block is sufficient. So we can go on for the right minimal. Lee Vasquez has been playing on for so far this year. His backup right mostly. That pass blocking is not as effective. I remember when we drafted an offensive line backup, it was more on from left to right on the offensive line. Brandon Mosley and our backup right tackle, Jerry Hilbert, were both right kind of at the bottom of our offensive line depth. So these So those pass blocking upgrades for most defenses is run blocking up just a bit, especially given the defense around behind Mike plays. And then awareness is always a huge thing for players. And it's no exception for Brandon Wilson. When a guy is this young, 24 years old, playing on the offensive line, because the offensive line and the defensive line is kind of a different beast. A lot of times we have, we look at receivers, and receivers are their stride and their, receivers tend to always be on top of their careers when they hit the field. There are receivers who are, of course, the exception, who can continue doing amazing things in their 30s and past their 30s. However, it isn't always something to somewhat of a marvel. It takes a Reggie Wayne or Randy Moss or some other specialty that we can use. Most receivers and still see the players like running backs, like heroes, some linebackers, most of them start to climb and get to the 30s. Offensive linemen, quarterbacks, and defensive linemen are some of the exceptions where they don't necessarily get better with season 30, but they certainly depreciate at a slower rate. The offensive linemen is just being the people that are there when they turn 28 and they're down to 32 as opposed to something like some playoff draft wide receiver where they might hit their stride at 25 and then already be able to climb by 28, that kind of thing. So the offensive lineman, you have to be prepared to take the time to develop that. In the case of Trey County, their backup at right tackle, he's our worst offensive lineman. When we picked him in the fantasy draft, he was just 69 overall, now 70 overall. And hopefully after we get him from low, the harder the fitness point will be a little bit better. His pass blocking and his run blocking, like get both of them up to 80, just to kind of point them off there. We can look at, of course, improving upon that 80 mark for both of them as the season goes on. But they're both there. Awareness is going to be the biggest thing, especially for a tackle who needs to recognize and blend in where the blitz is coming from. It is essential that he is able to read those plays and block accordingly. So let's get that just to 16. I won't spend all of this points, but that will allow us to go on to our last offensive lineman, Marcus Gilbert. Excuse me. Meanwhile, we've just studying or practicing. So there you have it. Our backup right tackle, John Gilbert, getting some love. Hopefully improving quite drastically. And sure enough, wow, it's up to 75 just like that. But obviously players have become a lower to the talent level. You see that the returns a little bit faster than some of the other players. That's a huge plus. For Marcus, I think they just load up the run blocking. His pass blocking is already quite excellent for tackling. His point blocking is great. His stamina is fine. His awareness is good. It is improvement. I think we'll see another 3,500 in his run blocking. And then you get his awareness. His awareness will get better. He's a 25-year-old tackle, so he's another guy who is on the younger side of his career, certainly has not hit his peak yet. His awareness will go up on its own confidence, more experience. But it's nice to give him some progression in that area. And then we are on to our next step this week. And sure, I think the last episode of Upkeep out of game stuff, I should update you in case you can't remember. We started on the Steve Mayer, who is the defensive tackle who was predicted to go high the late first round, last second round. His overall grade were just a few, which is disappointing for us. We are looking to draft defensive tackle or tight end the first round of to kind of decide to make an immediate impact in a couple places where we think we can improve. And I think it's in our best interest to take a look at more defensive tackles given the lack of skill and skills that Stevie Mayer has. I love his looks as good, durability good as percent. Size isn't that good. His problems are really good. His finesse moves are poor. His tackling is okay. Play recognition is quite poor, but that is to be expected. Awareness is fine. Injury and toughness are fine. So I'm not saying that we should completely discount any possible scenario with the draft Stevie Nicks. All I'm saying is that we need to be more prepared to pick somebody else who we do actually need to know more about these guys. So let's take a look at Darrell Ridder. Darrell Ridder is expected to go later. He's a little bit smaller than Stevie Nicks. What I think we should do is get a general look at some of his qualities. From there, we can figure some points to step on next week. We can check out his overall ratings. Right now, we do not have enough points for that. So I think we should look at the big areas where defensive tackles have extreme consistency, which is not the greatest range of that. Currently, as a team, where else could we take a look? His awareness is so good. It's a wow. So this guy might just be completely out to one. His injury is not likely that he'll get injured a whole bunch, but it's not the greatest number I've ever seen. Let's take a look. Some of these bull rush would be lovely to see, but it's very expensive. And this prospect is looking more like not necessarily going to be someone who we want. And then aside from that, let's take a look at his power moves. His finesse moves are beast. So certainly he is, let's say a core of speed. Speed is a beast. So he does, the size kind of reveals that Darrell Ridder might be more of a finesse defensive tackle. Don't know if that's what we're replacing him down in Casey Hampton, who is the complete opposite of that, who's a bull rusher and not much of a finesse player, but we'll see. There's difference to the game, obviously. Every decision revolves around the draft. Changes as time goes on. Who gets picked, obviously. Some guys get picked out over the time. Some guys get picked out over the close. We can look more for that as time goes on. Anyways, let's advance a week. Here's week number 6. Very interested to see what the standings are going to look like after this week. Obviously, we will be alone on top in the first place by an impressive 5-4 record. But it'll be interesting to see where the rest of our division rivals appear on the list. As soon as things are over here we go. We go back to home. And wow, interesting. So the Dolphins, we've yet to play the Dolphins, but we've beaten the Patriots and the Jets so far, if I remember correctly, which I think is the Jets have 2 ties, which is bizarre. I would like to see when the last time was that the Jets, or any offensive for that matter, finished with 2 ties at the end of the season. I thought that 2 ties in 5 weeks was crazy. But it is nice to see that we had a huge player on our division forward. Obviously, it's not time to get cocky, but it is nice plus to new one, yes, that we do have some advantages on opponents. Now, this is a bit disturbing to me. It's not overly disturbing, as we've already talked about. It's more like the Buffalo Bills will ever get past a certain point for franchise value because they are so markedly. However, this merchandise with us being so low on such a great win streak, I do find bizarre. Ticket sales are okay. Popularity pictures are obviously moving at 8% and 15 is amazing. And I believe we were 27th overall the season started. Not excited about the merchandise type of thing. Maybe let's take a look at the finances really quick to see what the merchandise is like. I did raise the price on a lot of things that pertain to merchandise, but I didn't raise anything that was a decent value anymore. I did raise the jersey prices for some of these players. Aaron Rodgers obviously more expensive than some of our other starters, but I figured that would be okay. Still, though, the numbers are pretty low. Only 129 Aaron Rodgers jerseys selling last week. Maybe if a decent value for everything, seriously. So, leave things that we don't have comments as bad as agree with us. In terms of concessions, it's still a decent value for all this stuff, which is quite shocking. It is a huge, it's really weird in this game for the prices that are so cheap. Anybody who's ever been in an actual sporting event, in any type of professional sports, much like the NFL, where they can serve whatever they want for things, knows that's not what the prices are actually like. A cool insight to our team here, obviously, with six-man floaters a lot of times, teams have trouble keeping up on offensive defense. So I do think that this is really slanted more for our answer team anyways. Offense is a little lower than it should be, defense is a lot better than it should be, but it's still a beautiful thing for the defense trying to perform. Offense, P7 isn't great. We're hoping that improves, but again, obviously our offensive numbers, excuse me, are going to slide it a little more to the lower side because we are playing 6-minute quarters. If we play 10-minute quarters, I can look back to be the number one offense entirely. But our defense will probably also be among the better, so there's that sliding scale that you have to keep in mind. So last week we did, had a 2-week up, that's what it was. Start the fourth quarter. This is interesting. There's one called, this is good, there's a practice there called tied up the time to start the fourth quarter. There's one here that's called fourth quarter time. You're tied less than 5 minutes to go. So the whole difference between these two games is one actually is 30 seconds long. But it's not good. Let's say it's tied up. Do I get tied up? No, it's what we did last time. Let's go down to 2 here just to know. This one is really fun, but we don't want to start people use it except for fun. So let's pick this one. Let me know in the comments too. If you guys have a favorite practice something that I can do more, or if you have one that you hate, and you want me to stop you, just let me know, and I will listen. I was happy to cater to your needs. In the meantime, I am excited. This is something that I got thinking about a couple of days ago, which is the audio. I'm getting a lot of comments about the audio in these videos because my audio does sometimes the quality is lessened with too much time to the microphone. That's just because I'm loud sometimes. But I can assure everybody, I don't know if that works out some of you, I am investigating. I have requests for hardware and stuff. I'm looking at improving my audio sound. So it's really a possibility that by next episode, because I'm going to be experimenting with that over this year, and the next one of the points is probably a video. So this weekend, I'm going to be looking at setting something up to improve the audio experience for you. Hopefully that means louder audio, so you don't have to crank up your stereo to watch these videos comfortably. And that means that the audio itself of my voice will be up and up and over, which I'm sure makes everybody watching this video.
Get ready! Press 38! Press 38! Well, let's go! Get ready! 295! 295!
The clock down at 2 minutes, which means that if they all want to run this ball, because this practice don't allow us to stop the ball, which is a huge problem. Man, the thing I think about this is playing this practice session is a lot of us. I mean, compared to those kind of giving a 4th down, like if we can, which I think is what the few practice sessions ago, just
get ready! 295!
How do you get practice session? How? Does everybody do it? So, how? Like, side from again, just bring it all from down. Like, not the time, like 3 minutes left. And you're going to have So we put the ball in. We got one come out and we got one come down. And that's what we should practice.
Get ready. Blue 95.
Come on, man. 25. What's going on, man?
Free.
And yeah, no more timeouts for us. No option to stop the clock. That's blue one. And I'm just going to take a knee, and then take another knee, and then he's going to be over. Not cool, bro. Not cool. You have a chance to get one. All right, guys. Well, that's okay. So, this practice is, if I do say so myself, extremely unfair practice today. But we'll be back on Monday for episode number 21.
Blue 95. Blue 95.
And rocking a beautiful flag and an undefeated record. So the thing of beauty for all the people in Buffalo, my mother, and people around the world enjoy that 25 in these videos. So thanks for watching, you guys. We'll be back